This was all premeditated. Let me tell you that right now. This wasn't no caught me off guard. This was planned. So he went in there. He saw all the guns in my uncle's room. He saw the money, the silver. He had the bayonet that he stabbed my grandmother in the back with. I was told 6 times. Let me finish. As she laid on the floor, she wrote in her blood, "I died today."
We are about to watch the commutation hearing for this Louisiana man who has served 46 years. He was sentenced in 1979 to life in prison. Now, this is not a parole hearing, it is a commutation hearing. He is asking the board to ask the governor to say, hey, let's give this guy a shot at parole. Now, I find these hearings to be fascinating because there are many that will watch this and say, oh my God, 46 years in prison, in Angola State Prison. Surely he has changed. Surely he has been rehabilitated. Surely he has served enough time for his crime. And then on the flip side, you hear from the victims. You hear from the grandson who is speaking up for the woman who he killed, for his grandmother who was ripped from him all those years ago. Also, what I always find fascinating is how little compassion, empathy, even the inability to fake empathy these murderers show at their hearings. Let's dive in and I'll unpack it with details at the end.
You're classified as a 5th felony offender. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 1st Judicial District in Caddo Parish for 1st-degree murder. You received a life sentence in January 1979. You have another sentencing date in the 20th Judicial District, that's West Feliciana Parish, and that's in 1981 for attempted simple escape. Is that information correct, Mr. Donaldson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Donaldson, how many years have you served in prison?
I have as a total on this 46.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, Mr. Donaldson, your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman, but before we turn it over to him for the interview, would you tell us what led you to prison? Why are you in jail this time for 46 years? What did you do, and why do you believe we ought to vote favorably for you today?
Well, I was having it hard. I had a hard time, and I went to do a burglary, which I was wrong. And I should have never done it, but I did. And there wasn't supposed to have been nobody there. And there was. He ended up walked in on me while I was there. And I just panicked and reacted. And it was a bad reaction on my part, but it's something that I can't undo. I swear I wish I'd never done it. I should have never even been there. Mrs. Herron was a nice lady. She always treated me nice. I'd worked there before, done some work in her house before. And, you know, it was just something like that that went bad. But I've lived with it since then, and there's not a day passes that I don't deal with it. I regret that it happened. I lost everything I had. She lost what she had. And a lot of my people, a lot of her people have been hurt behind that. And I acknowledge that. That's my fault on that. I have to deal with that too. But, you know, I'm a changed man now. It's been a long time. They had me down as a career criminal, but I'm not a career criminal. I've just had some bad misfortune, and that was the only way I could see to make it out, would go through things like that. But I got a man that's willing to help me. He's giving me a job, place to live, and I know I don't have no family or nothing left. That if I can get to that, if I can just get out someday and get there where he's at, I will be able to live out the rest of my life over there working for him. And I'm not gonna be a rich man or nothing like that, but I'll have enough I can get by on, and he'll see to that. I know that he's a good friend, and that's Mr. Rhodes. And like I say, I'm so sorry that it happened, and it should have never happened. And if I'd have been half the man that I should have been at that time, or what I thought I was, it would have never happened. You know, and I don't know what else to tell you. I can't undo it. If I could, I would. I would go back. I would go right now and take her place and bring her back and let me go in the hole. But
Right,
I
yes.
can't.
So tell us though, since you've been in prison for 46 years, what have you done that would make you a good candidate for us to vote for you today?
Well, I've learned a lot of different trades. I've learned to contain my anger. I took anger management, and I did learn that helped me, because I used to would blow up quick, but I've gotten over that pretty much. That's not a thing I do anymore. I'm you know, I work. I still have a little health left. I'm not gonna be dependent on the state or nothing to take care of me. I won't have to go to a hospital or a old folks home or something like that where I have to take pills. I don't take no medication. I don't use no drugs. I don't drink. So, you know, like I say, I've learned a lot of different trades. I know how to do a lot of stuff. I can plumb, I can do electrical work, I can do mechanical work. A little bit of carpentry. I'm not no master carpenter, but I can do a little bit of that. You know, times get hard, I can always fall back on my hobby, which is carving. I carve ducks and restore wagons and whatever, you know, stuff like that that I can do to pick up a little extra if I need it. But there ain't nobody to take care of but me, so I don't see where I'll need nothing much.
All right.
Enough I can eat a couple of times a day to keep a new pair of shoes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Warden Benoit, what can you tell us about Mr. Donaldson?
Oh, I've known him a long time. JD is a trustee at Camp F. He's worked in our maintenance department since 1992. His last write-up was in 03. He's a maintenance man now up at RC. You know, RC's been closed, but he keeps it all up, all the maintenance up there, pretty much by himself. He has taken a couple of programs, 100 hours in anger management. And he's got a low Tiger score. He's absolutely no problem here. He works hard every day. He's a big asset to us in the maintenance department.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Mr. Rhodes, we'd like to hear from you, please, sir, if you'd step up to the podium. All right, now we'll hear from the opposition, and first we'd like to hear from Mr. John Herron.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, thank y'all for giving me the chance to speak today. I heard what Mr. Donaldson said, and I'd like to set the record straight that was pretty sugar-coated. Let me tell you the story, how all this happened. My grandfather was looking to have his house painted. He called a friend of his that had a painting company. This guy off the street comes in. He said, I got a brand new guy, says he's a painter. I'm going to send him over to you. So he comes over to the house. Now, my grandfather, my uncle, and my dad myself and my brother are at the office. We have a construction company. The oldest streets, bridge, and road construction license in the state of Louisiana is 168. H&H Contracting Company. We're very well known. His wife, my grandmother, who is the sweetest person you would ever meet, was at her house when he was painting the house. And apparently it was taking him days to work on the outside of the house. He talked her into, let me paint the inside of your house. Now, my grandmother, I talked to many times. We talked at least every 2 weeks. If I didn't come over to see her, I was talking with her. We were very close. She told me about the painter. She said, he is the nicest guy you would get. She said, you know what? He reminds me of you. I think we were about the same age at that time. Now, this is the way I got the story from the police department. When Donaldson was in the house looking to paint the inside of the house, he had had a chance to go through all the rooms and see what was in that house. This was all premeditated. Let me tell you that right now. This wasn't no caught me off guard. This was planned. So he went in there. He saw all the guns in my uncle's room. He saw the money, the silver. He had the bayonet that he stabbed my grandmother in the back with. I was told 6 times. Let me finish. As she laid on the floor, she wrote in her blood, I died today. Now, this, I don't know what the hell you call this thing, but when he left, apparently this happened during the school zone hours. He was leaving, he took her diamond rings, he took everything he could and threw it in his car and took off. Well, he went speeding through a school zone. Now, mind you, the cop noticed there was something going on, the state trooper. And this man had one of my uncle's guns apparently in his boot. And when he went back there to check the trunk to see what was going on, because he knew there was something suspicious, they said he was going down his leg to scratch his leg, but he was going to get another gun, to get that gun and shoot that cop. So all this crap about how sweet this guy is, I'm going to tell you right now. My grandfather, when you have someone you love so much in a family, as loving as my family is and as close as we are, it destroys a family. He didn't just kill my grandmother, he killed us in so many ways. The problems started, fighting started, there was tension everywhere. My father told my grandfather, first off, he got life without parole. On a 12-man jury, there was one person that didn't want it on his conscience to do the death penalty. He was going to get the electric chair, but that one person kept him alive. But they gave him life without parole. The system has cheated us to even come and suggest parole for this man. We live with this every day of our life. I have lived with this, and I didn't even sleep 2 hours last night. I've been waiting for this day. I've been waiting for this day. And let me tell you something. My father promised my grandfather, if he ever comes up parole, I will do, until the day I die, I will do everything in my power to keep him in that prison. And I made that same promise to my father. And by God, that man only knows one thing. And by the way, he didn't know crap about painting the house either. But he only knows one thing, and that's how to kill and steal. And if you let him out, you know that what he said his hobby is that whittling with that knife. Well, he's real good with those knives. He likes to use them on people. So I want y'all to think real hard I know one thing, if anybody on the board had known anybody that has gone through what my family has gone through, you would never even consider this. If it was your loved one in your family, just think about it. And you let somebody out and you never know, oh, now I got to get this gun that I planned on using on him a long time ago back out again because he might be running in the street. No, I don't feel safe for my family
Or
or
sir,
anybody else's family.
you wrap it up for us, sir.
I'm sorry.
I think it's emotional. We appreciate it, but we need to move on.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know how I felt about that. So I do not.
Right in hell.
Yeah, he can rot in hell. Stay
Yes.
there.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Fitzgerald, could you hear from the DA's office?
Good morning. I'm Leon Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of Victim Assistance for the Caddo Parish DA's office. And I do want to oppose today on behalf of the DA's office. There's not a lot that I could add that would be any more powerful than what Mr. Herron has just relayed to the board. And Mr. Herron, I've not met you, but I appreciate you being on and expressing your family's thoughts. I'm very sorry that you're going through this. And to the board, I just, this is the worst of the worst. This was an 80-year-old lady who had been nice to Mr. Donaldson, who had spoken highly of him and taken a liking to him. And in return for that, her home got cased out by him, and she ended up being murdered in a vicious way, stabbed 3 times in the back. It seems like if she surprised Mr. Donaldson, but she was stabbed in the back, that perhaps he could have just gotten out of the house, that he didn't have to kill Miss Herron. And so, elderly people are to be respected. They're not to be murdered. He pried diamond rings off of Miss Herron's dead fingers. That's despicable. And to us, that is the worst of the worst. And he earned his life sentence, and that's what the court ordered. And we feel like it's appropriate and that he should be made to fulfill his sentence. And we also just urge the board to please take seriously Mr. Herron's comments about the long-lasting and far-reaching upheaval that his family is still living with because of Mr. Donald's actions. And thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
Thank you. We appreciate your participation. Mr. Donaldson, your case was assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions?
Okay, Mr. Donaldson. First thing that caught my attention was the fact you said you're not a career criminal. You're a fifth felony offender. You also had what was the manslaughter charge that you got arrested for that was just fifth? What was that about?
That was a car accident where the fellow that was in my car got killed.
Okay. And okay, so that was a car accident. Were you intoxicated or anything?
Yes, we were both intoxicated, and we were running from the police. They got behind us, and we were attempting to outrun them, and the car blew a tire and hit a pole, and he got thrown out of the car, and the car flipped over. I was still in the car, and police come in behind us and ran over him and then backed up over him. But I don't think they saw him when they come in behind us.
All right, and what about attempted simple escape? What did you try? How did you try to get away?
I went over the fence at Camp C after I first got here. I got a letter.
Days before they caught.
How long you were gone?
I was gone about an hour, maybe.
All right. And were you on drugs or alcohol at the time of this offense?
No, sir. No.
And you stole some piggy banks, some pistols, and a lot of other stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you've applied before. One time you were denied, one time you got granted, but the governor took no action. Is that correct?
I think the governor denied it the last time. I was denied, the board turned me down on the first one. And the second one, the governor, denied it, if I ain't mistaken.
Right. Okay, I just want to state that all law enforcement are opposed, as we've heard. Mr. Herring, who spoke, is also opposed. Why you haven't taken any classes since 2015? You taken them all or what?
Well, I took Cage Rage, and I took, the 100 hours. That's the requirements for the board. As far as, drug class and stuff, I'm not a dope head. I don't use drugs. So I don't really see where it would.
What about the alcohol? I mean, you definitely used alcohol, correct?
Yes, sir, I did, but I haven't used it in quite a while. It has been a while, so I would venture to say that I'm off of alcohol too. I don't drink no more.
Okay. I have no further questions.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
No question.
One question, y'all were talking about you being a grand champion for carving the ducks, is that correct? Duck carving?
I don't think I'm a grand champion.
Did you win that award?
I have won awards for first place over at Angola Rodeo in that competition they had over there.
I was just wondering because a long time ago, I used to know a guy that he was into that, collecting hand carved wooden ducks and everything, and they went for a pretty penny, a lot of them. And I was just wondering, are you making that kind of money and what are you doing with it?
Well, to start with, I don't make that much money.
Mhm.
Usually just a regular decoy that's in a sitting pose, I get $350 for. And I use that money to live on. Everything here costs.
All right,
Yeah.
then that was what I wanted, because I knew people who made.
Yes, ma'am. They prices in the canteen just went up sky high, just like they have out there. It's, if that's how I survive, I make my own money. I don't have nobody send me no money.
Okay, and you wanted to say something about that?
Catch him off guard. He's, I have paid 1,500 or something.
Mhm.
He cuts me slack at the 350. He sold some at Angola one time when I couldn't go 7 or 8 million.
Yeah,
I send him money
I see.
also.
So it all goes into the commissary type thing,
It's a little bit.
savings
different
account.
deal. And
I was just wondering because some people make lots of money.
I want to live in time.
Mhm.
I have worked for generations. You know, I spoke last time I brought it to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I-
He can make a lot of money.
Okay, well, he's answered my question and you have too thoroughly, because I really was
There's
worried.
money
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing to Mr. Herring, you give victim awareness class. Everything that you said, Mr. Herring, was very important and exactly what is said in a victim awareness class. What goes on right after the crime and during the lifetime of the victim. So I'm sorry that you went through it, but I'm glad that you could express it here today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions, so I think we're ready to vote. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, my vote is to deny due to the terrible criminal history and the facts of the crime, an 80-year-old woman who was helping him. And with your criminal record, I can't vote for you. My vote today is to deny.
Mr. Tillis,
I concur with Mr. Freeman.
Mrs. Stapleton,
I concur with Mr. Freeman.
and Mr. Booker. All right, Mr. Donaldson, you've received 4 votes to deny your application today, so your application for clemency has been denied, sir. That concludes our business at the Penitentiary Warden Benoit. We're going to sign off at 10:56. Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
All right, and there it is. It's over. He's all likely going to die in Angola prison, and it's like you've seen them once, you've seen them all. It's really uncanny, right? How this man sits here all these years later, and all he can think to say is the classic line. It's so consistent, it goes on the bingo card and will always get checked off of that card, which is, if I could take it back, I would. It's unbelievable. And to not see the irony is, well, I would just fall back on my hobby, which is carving things. I love how John, the grandson, came in there and called out that point, because that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like the guy just has no empathy, and the inability to express it or to fake it. And he had one supporter. Now, I fast forwarded through the supporter's comments, but basically, I don't know how they met each other. Is this other man his age, and his plan was to go and live with him. And he gave this speech, but you couldn't hear it. He came up to the podium. Those speeches where they're at the podium, and you couldn't hear anything. And it was like a 3, 4, 5 minute long butterfly turtle thing that I took it out. But that was his plan, and that's who Miss Stapleton was talking to at the end there. And I mean, again, just think about this, and what the grandson said. It was really quite a thing. It was just a mic drop. What a statement that he gave, talking about how it tore his family apart, and how he gave his word to make sure that this man would stay locked up in prison. And aren't you glad that we have the Louisiana board to make sure that that actually does happen? Because in other states like Iowa, Connecticut, Utah, chances are they grant these type of things. Now, this was a commutation. This wasn't a parole hearing. And there's just no chance that they're recommending to the governor, especially in this administration, to go and let this murder out. But if you didn't see this case and you only heard about it, and you said that he's locked up for all these years, 46 years in prison, you might just say, let him out. I actually don't know how old he is. Let's see if Lady Holly has down. No, Lady Holly has his age. He's only 70 years old. He did get up off the bench there real quick, but he doesn't look great 70, right? I don't know if that's can be accurate. There's actually some bits of information here on this sheet that's not right. I just don't know. I mean, if the crime was committed, and the problem is, I realize this, it's a similar name with similar crimes. He's got to be older than 70. This newspaper article says, let's go pull it up. I'm sorry for this. So he was 24 at the time of the conviction, and 44 years and 24 would be 60. I know this is bad. I'm bad at math, right? 40 and 24 would be 64, 68. 40 and 20, 60, 68. So, okay, I guess he is 70. Anyways, let's talk about this newspaper article, because we don't have an appeal that goes into details of this crime. So it says John Leonard Donaldson, 24, will get a mandatory life imprisonment sentence for the first-degree murder of 80-year-old last January 12th. The 9-man and 3-woman of the jury reached a unanimous verdict of guilty first-degree murder Saturday night, but failed to agree on the penalty after 3 hours of deliberation Monday. Can you imagine that they only sat there for 3 hours to try to decide on death or life and the consequences what that would mean? It's hard for me to understand that a judge would say, okay, you can't come to a conclusion after 3 hours. 3 hours. We're talking about life and death. You'd expect them to be a multi-day, maybe deliberation thing. No. I mean, 3 hours is enough to get lunch and clean up a little bit and have some. I mean, come on. It just feels weird. The judge should have said, you're going back in there. The mandatory life sentence is required by law and carries a provision preventing parole, probation, suspension of sentence. District Attorney Paul Camucci handled the prosecution of this case. And on that note, I love seeing Leon Fitzgerald, works with the DA's office. She's amazing. She speaks so well. She cares about her cases in her parish. Handling prosecution of the case, told the Times after the verdict was in, that Donaldson had a previous criminal record. However, presiding district judge John Ballard would not allow that information to go before the jury. So I don't know why the jury would not be allowed to know of someone's long criminal record if you're talking about death sentence. I understand to not understand it for the sentencing stage, but the punishment stage, wouldn't that be relevant at that point? I mean, someone else died with him, it seems, I guess, when he was involved in another crime. There's 2 people who lost their lives. Donaldson, formerly of Gulfport, had 2 previous burglary and larceny convictions in Mississippi. He was also arrested in 1977 on a federal firearms violation and was released from federal halfway house in Shreveport. Donaldson's work release program with the halfway house ended December 6, 1978, and her murder occurred a month and 6 days later. It took him a month and 6 days from getting out of the halfway house to kill someone. The district attorney's office is looking into the possibility of filing a multiple offender bill against Donaldson if it would prevent him from accumulating what is called good time. An argument before the jury, Camucci said, Miss Heron was murdered brutally, and this case deserves a unanimous verdict of the death penalty. Attorney W.F. Bubba Holder of Gulfport, Mississippi, and chief indigent defender William Lowe represented Donaldson. Holder argued before the jury that Donaldson conviction, so that can't be Mississippi. That would make sense. Anyways, before the jury that Donaldson conviction came on purely circumstantial evidence, and that Donaldson's punishment would also affect his young wife, the mother of 2 small children. You hear how they're trying to manipulate us? Not his small children, 2 small children. Can you imagine that a public defender will say, don't kill this man because he's married to a woman with 2 small children? That's mind-boggling. Like, the insanity of that is just beyond insane. It's like, what? Wait, so he married a woman with children, and that should be why you shouldn't kill him? Okay. Right. That makes sense. People were crazy. All it's not just now that people are crazy. They're crazy in the 70s too. All right. He argued against the death penalty by saying it's the taking of a human life. He is a human being regardless of what he's done. We are not here for vengeance. We are here for punishment. And look at this. Years later, the victims are the ones that get punished. Now, Mrs. Heron was a member of the Heron family, which owns and operates contracting company Bills and Distributor. She was stabbed 3 times in the back of her home. Oof. Yeah, it's to me, I can never get over this stuff. It's crazy to me how just people out there, they exist. Evil exists. You can't. And he's still a victim. I love that Miss Freeman brought it up. How he caught him say it there. How I've always gone through hard times. Like, what were the words he used? I've lost everything I had. She lost everything she had. I only had a bad misfortune. That's why I did all my crimes. Again, he's the victim. He did everything wrong. Meanwhile, he gets a job as a painter, right? He has a job. And you have to imagine the guilt of the man who used the contracting company to bring in this criminal into their life, into their house, and then this criminal, of course, does a horrible job not painting the house, and then talks them into painting the inside, and then she's an 80-year-old woman, of course, and he does it charming and manipulation. The grandmother actually compares him to her grandson, and then you think, there's just no reason to kill him, to her. There's no reason to do, of course, probably what happened is she saw him and she turned to escape or something and he killed her. Maybe she never saw him. He's just a psycho. But there's no reason to kill him. And there he is. He needs to die in prison, but in my opinion. But this is why we watch these things. Again, without context, you might say, "Oh, you have no empathy if you don't want to release this man. How could you all these years later?" But then you have to watch it. You have to see it. You have to see it to believe it. To maybe it will change your mind, and then you can always ask the one question. Which you said, "Man, you have no empathy. He's been locked up for 46 years." And I have this conversation with my 95-year-old grandfather too. And I said, "Well, wait a minute. By releasing him, you are re-victimizing the victims. So I choose to place my empathy with the victims. You want to place your empathy with the murderer who still can show no empathy himself, who can still be a danger, frankly, to even the man that he was going to go live with. Plenty of knives in there in that kitchen. What happens if he loses his cool?" Anyways, we'll go to the fact of the day before we end this, and that is, all these facts of the day. An octopi have 3 hearts. 2 pump blood to the gills, while a third circulates it to the rest of the body. That sounds like a lot of over-engineering, if you ask me. But no, octopi are really cool. Really cool. But they have such a short lifespan, which always amazes me. They say it's highly intelligent, and they only live like a few years, right? We could jump. We could jump to one more hearing. It's possible you've seen it already, but it's an intense one. I think we'll show it here right now. And with that, let's jump in.
I don't know if you're aware of all the circumstances of this case, but the defendant McNeal was convicted of the instant case in 1983, the year before I was elected district attorney. Prior to that, though, about 9 months prior to the instant case, in the same apartment complex, there was another aggravated rape. And a man by the name of Ricky Johnson was convicted of that offense. And Ricky served 26 years. And I was approached by the Innocence Project and asked, would one own a guy by the name of Ricky Johnson, who had been serving a life sentence since 1982 for 9 months prior in the same apartment complex. That DNA testing revealed the defendant Ricky Johnson's DNA was excluded as being found in the victim. And when that was submitted into this database, that it was the DNA of this defendant, John McNeal.
We just heard from the district attorney who was laying it out to the Louisiana Commutation Board, laying down the facts of a monster. You see, this monster not only committed aggravated SA of 1 victim, but he has at least 2 victims. But that's not all. You see, his friend, who was serving time in Angola beside him, was rotting away in prison for 25 years for a crime that he didn't commit, for a crime that he committed. Yet he would sit there and talk to his buddy every day in the yard and say, that's too bad. Too bad you were wrongfully convicted. All the while knowing that he held the key to him getting out. Now, it was ultimately the innocent project that freed Ricky from prison, but John is now asking the commutation board to let him out and give him a second chance. Have the governor pardon him for his crime. The audacity of it all. Now let's jump into this hearing, hear it out. We'll hear from the victims, we'll hear from the DA, and then I'll unpack it with more details about the wrongful conviction at the end.
Mr. McNeal, you're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 11th Judicial District at Sabine Parish in June 1984. You received a life sentence for an aggravated rape conviction. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. McNeal, why don't you tell us why you've submitted an application to have your sentence commuted, and why do you think you should be granted that request?
Because I'm not that person that I was all them years ago when I came here. And, I always tried to, by me being incarcerated in Angola, I always tried to follow the guidelines and live by the rules and regulations of the prison. And just do the right thing. And I'm a better person right now than I was when I first came in here.
Good. All right. Thank you, sir. Warden Oliver, what can you tell us about Mr. McNeal?
Mr. McNeal served approximately 41 years. He's a Class A trustee. He lives at Camp D, where he works as a janitor and cleaner. I can tell you he was one of the first inmates that I met when I came here almost 23 years ago. So he's been in the same area since then. He's had a total of 32 disciplinary write-ups, the last report being in 2011. He has completed substance abuse, anger management, victim awareness, and letter training. He does have a written letter in his file to the victim. Thinking for a change, sex offender treatment, and his Tiger score is low. He also does have a history of prostate cancer that has, it's treatable. It's been treated. He just goes regularly to the provider for follow-ups.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McNeal, we'd like to hear first from the people that want to speak, and we don't see anybody speaking in support today of your application. So we'll start off with Mr. Don Burkett from the DA's office in Sabine Parish. Mr. Burkett, we'd like to hear from you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson, other members of the board. I don't know if you're aware of all the circumstances of this case, but the defendant McNeal was convicted of the instant case in 1983, the year before I was elected district attorney. Prior to that, though, about 9 months prior to the instant case in the same apartment complex, there was another aggravated rape. And a man by the name of Ricky Johnson was convicted of that offense. And Ricky served 26 years. And I was approached by the Innocence Project and asked, would DNA testing done on a guy by the name of Ricky Johnson, who had been serving a life sentence since 1982 for a rape 9 months prior in the same apartment complex. That DNA testing revealed that the defendant Ricky Johnson's DNA was excluded as being found in the victim. And when that was submitted into this database, it also revealed that it was the DNA of this defendant, John McNeal. So we brought Ricky Johnson back to Sabine Parish. And I looked at both files. One of the problems was that the Manny PD had investigated one rape. The Sabine Parish Sheriff's Office had investigated the other. But when you laid the files out and saw how things went, now there was a gun used in the first one and a knife in this one, but still when you looked how it went out and all, you could tell the pattern of this crime. And so we released Ricky Johnson. And this is another thing. Ricky Johnson told me he was in the exercise yard with McNeal every day. And Johnson's doing a life sentence for a rape that this inmate McNeal committed. And McNeal's sitting there knowing, and he, you know, he could care less. And so I don't know if you're going to ask him about the other rape, whether you're going to admit to the other rape. I didn't follow through and prosecute him on that one at that time, but there was some witness issues and things involved. But and undoubtedly, he's committed not one but two aggravated rapes. And he allowed an innocent man to serve, I think it was 26 years of his life in Angola for something he didn't do. And the facts of the case, and I will let the victim and her family speak to those, but they were horrific what went on. And so I'm opposed to his any commutation of his sentence in the strongest of terms. And I'd be happy to answer any questions any of you have.
Okay, we'll reserve. I don't see any questions at this time, but we may have some shortly. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, sir. Could we hear now from the victim's family? And I'll let you all decide how you want to go. Who wants to go first? So as you speak, just introduce yourself individually. Thank you.
I don't consider myself a victim. I'm a survivor. I came from home one night, found this monster hiding in my closet. I never imagined anything this horrific would happen to me. This monster raped me and held a knife to my throat the whole time and told me if I made a sound, he would kill me. What this monster did to me left an emotional and physical pain that I'm still suffering with today. This horrific act traumatizes you. You live with it for the rest of your life. It was years before I could even trust anybody, years before I could even stay alone by myself in my own home, and years before I could even turn the lights out to sleep. When I heard this monster was applying for a pardon, it hit me so hard. All of the fear, the worry came rushing back. I had panic attacks. I have severe anxiety, which I had to get medication for. I don't sleep. I have a fear that if this monster is released, he will find me and carry out his threat to kill me, as he told me over and over, no matter how long it took, he would kill me and my precious family. I would have no peace, or I would never feel safe again. I pray to God and I beg you to keep this monster out of my life and out of my family's life, and keep him in prison where he belongs. Thank you. My name is Ginger, and I'm Laura's youngest sister. And we want to thank you for the chance to speak to you directly, because this crime was a tragic event that changed our sister's life forever. The pain, the fear, and the lasting trauma are things that she lives with every single day. And we want you to understand that this has done to her and to our family, not just through words on paper, that our letters that we submitted for you to review today. But we wanted you to hear from us, her sisters, the two of us who were in the aftermath, who love her deeply and have stood by her side through all of this. So we heard the person that we refer to as a monster because we do think that he's evil. But what we heard him say earlier was that he's not the person that he was, that he's now following guidelines and he's living by the rules. But we feel that a productive member of society doesn't rape someone. A productive member of society doesn't watch another man take the blame for a crime that he committed. You don't get to take those actions and then call yourself rehabilitated because you followed the rules or because you're presenting yourself in a different light to us for the day. After he committed the horrific crime that he did to our sister, he ran from the law enforcement and he hid in the woods, sparking a 7-day manhunt. I cannot put into words the fear that our sister and that our family endured for weeks while they were on a manhunt for him. And all because he chose to run rather than face the fact that what he had done, him being a coward, getting in there, as Mr. Burkett said, he allowed an innocent man to serve 26 years in prison for the crime that he committed. He raped another woman 9 months before he raped our sister. He also had a reported escape attempt at the courthouse in Sabine Parish during the trial. He simply walked out of the courtroom, and it is reported as an escape. So him attending classes or volunteering, that doesn't change what happened to our sister and what she's had to live with. That's moments that show someone's character. And volunteering later in a place, prison doesn't say to us that he was performed. He was hiding in her apartment, in her bedroom, in her closet. When she arrived into the apartment, it was dark, and when she saw him, she tried to run from him, and he attacked her, and he brutally raped our sister. And he held a butcher knife to her throat the entire time. And not only that, but he threatened if she ever said a word that he would kill her and he would kill us, and he would kill her family. Releasing him would tell our sister that her pain doesn't matter and that her safety is negotiable, and that the man who raped her and terrorized her has more right to freedom than she does to peace. A 12-member jury heard the evidence, and the sentence that they handed down was not handed down lightly. It was justice, it was accountability, and it should stand. It's the reason that all three of us girls sleep with a loaded pistol beside our bed every night. He is the reason that we check the locks on our doors every night, 3 to 4 times before we go to sleep in our own homes. Please deny parole and keep him where he belongs. I urge you to consider that he doesn't deserve a second chance. Our sister didn't get a second chance. He doesn't deserve one either. Please don't let our beautiful sister, who has endured so much, suffer again because of a system that lets a 2-time rapist walk free.
My name is Pam, and I'm the older sister. First, I want to thank you for giving us a chance to speak. This didn't just change my sister's life, it took so much from her, and I watched her live with fear and pain that no one should have to ever endure. As an older sister, I've seen the toll it's taken on her day after day, and it breaks my heart. The fear and the trauma and the weight of what it's done to her is something she never deserved. What my sister was forced to endure, and because of the tears and anguish, the weight that brought upon our mother, when this horrific crime happened, it broke her heart in a way no words can truly explain. As a mother, watching her child suffer was unbearable. She was filled with sorrow, fear, and helplessness that no parent should ever have to feel. This trauma didn't just affect one person, it changed all of us. And while our mother couldn't be here physically today, we speak with her full support and strength that she raised us to have. She stands with us in the request to please deny parole. Still today, when we come home, now we check all of our closets. And just recently, I was with my sister when she received a phone call from the victim's advocate to make her aware that this rapist was applying for clemency. I was there with her, and I saw firsthand what the PTSD that she suffered with done to her. As a sister, I'm begging you, please deny this request with parole. The thought of him being released fills us all with fear. My sister is still trying to rebuild her life and live with what was done to her. The idea that he could walk away is terrifying, and none of us, especially her, will ever feel safe if he's given this chance. This is a life sentence for my sister, and it should continue to be a life sentence for him. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. Mr. McNeal, your case was assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions?
Okay, Mr. McNeil, I'm gonna ask a question everybody wants to know. Do you admit to the first rape? 9
Yes,
months
sir.
prior to this?
Yes, sir. You said the one that I'm here for Miss Blackwell?
Right, and the one that happened prior to that Mr. Johnson was serving time for?
No, sir.
Okay, so you saying you didn't commit that?
No, sir. They were saying that, because the detectives came and seen me, they were saying that you not being charged with nothing. They want to know why my DNA was found out at the scene at that time. But I'm saying, but I think the victim that he was referring to on that got on national TV and said that I was not the one did that to her. Like she said, she know who did that, and she said I was not the one did that. He said my DNA was found out at the scene.
Let's back to the original charge then. Okay, you wasn't convicted of that one. Okay, what did you learn in sex offender treatment?
I learned that it's that you got to know the signs that when you certain signs that you get not to violate, and it got certain signs that it teaches you in sex offender, not the real offend and stuff like that.
Okay, I see that in 1984 you were arrested for a first-degree murder. They didn't prosecute you on it, but what was that about?
First-degree murder?
But it says on 5 New Orleans District Attorney's Office, it's 1984, they charged you with first-degree murder.
No, sir, that's incorrect.
Okay. Okay. All right, yeah, it's a very, very heinous offense. I have no further questions.
Any other questions? All right, I don't see any other questions, Mr. McNeil, so we'll begin the vote with Mr. Freeman.
First off, I want to thank everybody that here spoke today. I know it was very traumatic. My vote today is to deny heinous nature offense, and I feel it is a serial rape.
Mr. Tillis,
I concur with Mr. Freeman.
is a statement.
I concur with Mr. Freeman and of course victim opposition, law enforcement opposition.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
I concur also. It's a horrible crime and to be waiting in a closet. I can't imagine. That would be a terrible thing. And on behalf of all the kids that worry about the boogeyman being in the closet, I think somebody like this needs to stay in jail. And so my vote's to deny.
So, Mr. McNeil, you received 4 votes to deny your application today. So your application for clemency has been denied.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to see Calvin Willis, a very good friend of mine. He's part responsible for me getting in touch with the Innocent Project and being where I'm at today. I haven't seen Calvin since around 92.
Where was that?
In Angola.
So are you excited to see him?
Oh yes, indeed I am. And I would like to see him. That's my partner. It's my lifetime friend. He like family too.
All right. Oh, good, man. Good. Take care of yourself, baby. How you doing? All right, how you doing?
Calvin, she said they're going to bring you to Shreveport Friday and release you no later than Monday because you got to be in New Orleans to speak at a press conference on Tuesday. Okay. That's right. And it still wasn't, registered. I couldn't believe it. And then, because, after filing, and it was constantly denying everything, I was like, okay, all right. I go again. You know, something else gonna come up. You know what I'm saying? They took the shackles off my feet, and then they took the shackles off my hand. And looked like they just rose up like that. And as I was saying to myself, I said, "Boy, this feel good." You know, I know the feeling, boy. Man, I know the feeling. Rick.
If you want to see the rest of that clip, I'll put a link to it in the description. The man on the left with the sunglasses was Ricky Johnson. On the right, Calvin Willis, who also was serving time in Angola for a crime that he did not commit. Now, this entire hearing, how dramatic, how remarkable. We hear from the victim, and she stands up. I know that the sound quality wasn't great. I hope you could read it with the subtitles. But she starts off by saying, "I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor." I love that. And you have the actual district attorney that gets up and he makes a statement. And I have to appreciate that. Now, I mean, I don't know how you sleep with yourself when you send an innocent man to prison for all these years, but I think he should get some credit. He should get credit for showing back up and also allowing the DNA testing to happen and whatnot. I guess I don't know enough about this and how it works in these specifics, but I think far too often we see DAs that they won't show up to do this. So I think we have to give him credit for that. Something that did stick in my mind though was again how he said I never prosecuted him for the second essay. He said there were witness problems. I just question that. Maybe he thought he never had to prosecute him. You have DNA. Well, if you exonerate one man with DNA, then yeah, maybe go to court and prosecute it. Now, maybe the victim said, "I just don't want to. I can't. Don't put me through this." And that's why he chose not to. He says the guy's in prison for life anyways, so who cares? All right. So again, maybe I'm missing information. I can't go too crazy on that. But this does open up just a crazy can of worms. And for those of you who are wondering how much money in reparations he got for being locked up for 25 years in Angola for a crime that he didn't commit, all he got was $150,000, which is just mind-blowing. $150,000. How is that even possible? I mean, what? Like he was wrongfully convicted, and it was in a lineup. It was through a lineup, which is just goes to show how lineups are so. You would think that I just can't imagine. We can go through information on the case. It is nice. This guy had not a single person there in support of him. And I think that's enough. That's all that you need to know. It's got to be something else. I wonder what your reputation is in the yard of Angola when everyone finds out that you were holding out. Now he's still to today. Oh, I was innocent. It was in the news. She picked someone else. No. Oh my gosh. This one hit. This is great. We hear about the Innocence Project, but now to see it tied right in. And of course, thank you, Lady Holly, for catching this case, putting it in a spreadsheet, pulling the research. I love to know. You can just to give an example. Lady Holly says, "Mandu, cover this case," and then she puts together this document, which basically makes it so easy. You go through the information. She has the highlights of it right here, the summaries, and then all the links associated with the case. And then our fact of the day. Let's start with our fact of the day, and then we'll go through the information. The United States is known for being supersized, and it also has the longest land border in the world, stretching for over 8,850 kilometers. The U.S. share is supported with its northern neighbor, Canada. I had no idea. I mean, for some reason, I'm not good at this stuff, geography, but I would guess like more. I think my first guess would be Russia, right? There you go. It's the United States. So, okay. All right. So Man wrongly imprisoned for 26 years gains his freedom. This was written in 2008. Ricky Johnson, who has been incarcerated for nearly 26 years for an essay he did not commit, was released Monday based on DNA results proving his innocence, according to the Innocence Project, which represents him. Johnson, who was 26 when he was arrested for the crime, is scheduled to speak at a press conference in Baton Rouge this week with the family of Archie Williams, who has been fighting 13 years for DNA testing that could prove his innocence. And I hate this stuff. The idea that you have to fight all these years when you're saying there's DNA to prove I'm innocent, why does it take so long? Like, this stuff is what pisses me off, which is again why I went into, like, before I could just throw all the credit to the DA, I'm just skeptical, but okay. Ricky Johnson lost more than a quarter of a century, nearly his entire adult life, to wrongful conviction. He had 3 young children when he was arrested, and the 4th was born shortly after he was incarcerated. All of his children are now adults. He has grandchildren he's never met, said Vanessa Potkin at the Innocence Project's attorney representing Johnson. Ricky Johnson's long nightmare will be in vain if we don't learn from it and make sure that people in Louisiana have access to DNA testing that can prove their innocence. Johnson was arrested in 1982 for essay of a woman in July in 1982 in Manny. The victim said a man broke into her room at 1 a.m. and stayed for several hours, during which he essayed her. She later identified Johnson in the photo array that included an old photo of Johnson and just 2 other photos. Oh, great. So 3 photos. Good job. Freaking shoddy work. 1982. Unbelievable. Johnson was convicted of the essay in January 1983 and sentenced to life without parole. He has been at Louisiana Angola Farm Prison ever since. In June 2007, the Innocence Project, which is affiliated with Cardozo School of Law, asked Sabine Parish District Attorney Don Burkett to agree to DNA testing to collect after they say within days. Burkett agreed. Okay, so here we go. So the DA should get a lot of credit. He did not fight this. It says within days he agreed. You know, it's shame on me for coming to conclusions. It really is. All right. The DNA profile did not match Johnson, and late last week, state officials entered DNA profile into the database. So it seems it happened really quick. I mean, as soon as the Innocence Project got involved, they got results. The DNA profile did not match Johnson, and late last week, state officials entered a DNA profile in a database of convicted offenders, yielding a match to John Cornell McNeal, who was already in prison for essay in the same apartment complex just 9 months after the essay for which Johnson was wrongfully convicted. And I do wonder what Mr. Freeman was bringing up with the first-degree murder. I wonder if there was something else that because I don't have access to that. After McNeal was convicted of the April 1983 essay, he was sentenced to life without parole, has been serving in Angola within Johnson. 2 men were acquaintances for the past 2 decades. If police and prosecutors had not focused on Ricky Johnson so early on in the investigation, and if proper eyewitness identification procedure had been used instead of deeply flawed photo lineup, the real perpetrator might have been brought to justice sooner and may not have been free to essay the woman in the same apartment complex. Yeah. Podkin said, anyone who doubts that our criminal justice system is stronger when we take steps to prevent wrongful convictions should take a close look at Ricky Johnson's case. At the suggestion of Calvin Willis, an Innocence Project client who served more than 21 years in Angola before DNA testing exonerated him in 2003, Johnson wrote to the Innocence Project seeking assistance. He wrote that he wanted to help getting the DNA that will give my life back. And I said, I am not the man that did this. I want this. I want to go home. In 2005, Johnson's daughter, Lakeisha Butts, wrote to the Innocence Project, my father, Ricky Johnson, was wrongfully charged and sentenced to life 21 years and has now passed. 21 years have now passed. My dad has been stripped from his children and his family in charge he is not guilty of. And the real perpetrator of the heinous act was granted the advantage of walking free and having the opportunity to be surrounded with his family. We, the children of Ricky Johnson, need your assistance in exonerating our father. The Innocence Project took the case in 2006. So it was, okay, in 2005 she wrote. 2006 they took the case, quickly located the evidence. Once Burkett agreed to DNA testing, a state judge granted a motion to test the evidence at Relegane, a private lab based in New Orleans. Why do you need a judge to agree to take? Why do you need a judge to grant that? Basic DNA testing yielded only a partial profile. More sophisticated testing known, blah, 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 provided a full profile. In late December, Johnson's DNA profile was compared with the profile of vaginal swab, and he was excluded last week. State officials matched the profile to McNeal, whose DNA profile in the state's database of convicted Felons Innocence Project has commended Burkett for quickly agreeing to conduct DNA testing in this case. So if they have to commend them, that means oftentimes it's not agreed to. I've seen documentaries where they have DAs refusing to allow it, and it's shame on them. While Louisiana passed a state law allowing access to post-conviction DNA testing in 2001, East Baton Rouge District Attorney Doug Moreau has fought DNA testing for years in 2 Innocent Project cases. There you go. As I was saying, why? Why would you fight it? It's insane. It's sick. Just say, sure. If you got nothing to hide, why would you fight it? Really, there's no answer. There's none. You cannot give me a single answer. It's impossible. In Arch Williams' case, Moreau had refused to conduct DNA testing for 13 years. The state appeals court finally ordered DNA testing in the case in August, but Moreau has appealed the state Supreme Court. Why? See, here it is. Look at this. This guy's even appealing. Don't take the DNA. Don't prove he's innocent. Just last week, the state Supreme Court rejected his effort to continue blocking DNA testing for Kenneth Reed, who initially requested testing 2 years ago. In the 2 unrelated cases, Williams and Reed were convicted of essaying a woman who did not know their attacker, making them the most straightforward types of cases for DNA proving guilt or innocence. More than anything else, Ricky Johnson owes his freedom to the fact that he is in Sabine Parish with a cooperative district attorney who recognizes his legal and moral obligation to conduct DNA testing. If he had been in East Baton Rouge, Ricky Johnson would likely still be in Angola, still fighting DNA testing that would prove his innocence, the Innocence Project said. This is madness. Do you hear that? It's literally down to the one parish. A DA is saying you can't DNA test, and when a judge orders it, he even appeals. Why? You guys, and it's funny because it's weird. I felt like when I'm reading this, I'm like saying, look, we should applaud the DA for allowing. And even while I was saying that, I was like doubting myself. I'm like, no, I know I've seen this. I've read it somewhere. I've seen in documentaries where DAs refuse it. And right down in the line, it's talking about in another parish how a DA refuses it. Because it doesn't make sense. I had to talk myself into believing what I was saying because it didn't make any sense. But that's sick stuff. There's so much wrong with the justice system. So much. We see it every day, and it's on all sides of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. At least we have a platform here to call it out, show really what was this is evil and good and evil, the boogeyman, as Mr. Prater said it, survivors standing up for their rights. I mean, you have it all in this case. And thank you, Lady Holly, for making sure that we covered it. And with that, I'll let you go.
I don't consider myself a victim. I'm a survivor. I came home one night, found this monster hiding in my closet. I never imagined anything this horrific would happen to me. This monster raped me and held a knife to my throat the whole time and told me if I made a sound, he would kill me. What this monster did to me left an emotional and physical pain that I still suffer with today. This horrific act traumatizes you. You live with it for the rest of your life.
This was all premeditated. Let me tell you that right now. This wasn't no caught me off guard. This was planned. So he went in there. He saw all the guns in my uncle's room. He saw the money, the silver. He had the bayonet that he stabbed my grandmother in the back with. I was told 6 times. Let me finish. As she laid on the floor, she wrote in her blood, "I died today." Now, this I don't know what the hell you call this thing, but when he left, apparently this happened during the school zone hours. He was leaving, he took her diamond rings, he took everything he could and threw it in his car and took off. Well, he went speeding through a school zone. Now, mind you, the cop noticed there was something going on, the state trooper. And this man had one of my uncle's guns apparently in his boot. And when he went back there to check the trunk to see what was going on, because he knew there was something suspicious, they said he was going down his leg to scratch his leg, but he was going to get another gun, to get that gun and shoot that cop. So all this crap about how sweet this guy is, I'm going to tell you right now. My grandfather, when you have someone you love so much in a family, as loving as my family is and as close as we are, it destroys a family. He didn't just kill my grandmother. He killed us in so many ways. The problems started, fighting started. There was tension everywhere. My father told my grandfather, first off, he got life without parole. On a 12-man jury, there was one person that didn't want it on his conscience to do the death penalty. He was going to get the electric chair. But that one person kept him alive. But they gave him life without parole.